Jim Edwards here, sitting alongside Danny Austin, Post Media Canada, Jose Young's Fansided and Sports Illustrated MMA. It's UFC 222, this is the preview show. We're going to be talking about all the fights going down on Saturday night. Of course, Cris Cyborg taking on Yana Kunitskaya for the UFC Women's Featherweight title in the main event. Gentlemen, probably no better place to start than, of course, that fight. So, Jose, talk to me, like we have Yana coming in on short notice, 3 weeks. Does she have any chance at all?
I think she has a better chance against Cyborg than, say, Tonya Evinger did. Like, I think Holly Holm was the person to beat her, and she went to a decision, didn't get finished by Cyborg, which is quote-unquote the moral victory, but...
She trains with Holly,
exactly,
right?
And she was Holly's main training partner for Cyborg, so she knows she was in a full camp preparing for Cyborg. So it's not like she just doesn't know how to train for her. She did the full camp with Holly. She like I said, she was the main training partner. And from everything I've heard, Yana is a legit featherweight, and she was only fighting at bantamweight in Invicta because that's where the bigger fights were. And I believe it was the state of California recommended she go up to featherweight. So it's not like Tonya Evinger or Leslie Smith where they're blown up like bantamweights going to featherweight. Like, this is a legit featherweight versus featherweight. But no, I don't think she has anything for Cyborg.
Danny, I mean, can you offer me anything that convinced me that we're going to see an upset on Saturday?
No. No, but I don't think that matters. I mean, the question is whether she's completely outmatched. I mean, I think Cyborg's the best female fighter in the world, and I think she'll probably win. But let's be perfectly honest here. I think it's okay to admit, I do not know anything about Yana as a fighter. I did a little bit of research, I watched some. I do not have that information. What I know is that Cyborg's that good, and this is the Cyborg show. She's the fighter who swooped in, saved this UFC 222 card. We should be celebrating her for that. Hopefully the referee does a good job, make sure Yana doesn't take too much damage. Hopefully we get to see something cool. But I don't feel in any way qualified to come in and like break down bit by bit this fight, and I don't think anyone needs to pretend that they can, because we don't know that much about her. Sure.
I mean, okay, so let's kind of, I guess, reverse the question here. Like, is there anyone out there that could actually beat Cris Cyborg? Like, Danny, I'll come to you. Like, is there anyone that you actually think about, okay, like, if we pitch Cris Cyborg against this person, this is going to be a big fight? Because let's face it, this week, UFC 222, it's not a big fight. This feels very lackluster.
Yeah, I mean, I actually haven't been, because I came into it feeling like this was a lackluster card. I've been sort of pleasantly surprised, just because you go up and down on the card and it's fun, and not every card has to be a blockbuster. Yeah, I mean, it's Amanda Nunes. That's the one that they have to do. She doesn't want to. I mean, people can say Megan Anderson. For people like us, we'd probably be interested in seeing that. But Jose said it. Holly Holm was the one who had the best shot, just based on her boxing skill set. Yep. And Cyborg looked amazing in that fight, although she was pushed. So it's Amanda Nunes. And that's okay, and that's why the UFC needs to build an 145-pound division, so we can get to know some of these, younger women. They have chances to win and climb the rankings, because there are no big fights out there, because nobody knows any of the 145-pound fighters.
Okay, cool. Jose, like, let's finish off the main event. How do you think this one kind of finishes on Saturday night?
I think it's going to be third round TKO, but not a flash knockout. Like we were talking, like I can't remember who I was talking to about it, but Cyborg doesn't really have like that. One punch, you're dead.
No,
like, she just like
not anymore.
She just
scarier than that.
Yeah, it's like, I honestly think it's scarier watching her corner her opponent and throw 20 punches in 30 seconds. And the person doesn't go down, they just have no idea where they are, and the referee has to save them. Her opponents rarely physically look the same after fighting Cyborg. So I think it'll be something similar to that. Somewhere in the third round, Cyborg, I believe that's when she finished Tonya.
Yeah,
I want to say it's going to be something similar to that.
Okay, cool. I mean, let's move on to the co-main event. I personally think this is a bit more exciting, well, a lot more exciting maybe. Brian Ortega taking on Frankie Edgar. Again, 3 weeks notice for Brian here. But Danny, I'll come to you. Like, what have you kind of seen from Brian Ortega this week? He seems to have captured the imagination of a lot of people that perhaps he wasn't so significantly on their radar before, but he seems to be creating a lot of fans, especially this week.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think for probably the three of us, he first really got on my radar. I mean, we knew who he was. We knew he was good. But at UFC 214 last summer in Anaheim, a great week for us. And he came in, and what he did to Cub Swanson, all of a sudden you start thinking like, man, maybe this guy is a is a title contender. So I love that we're getting to see this so quickly after the Cub fight.
Sure.
I love that we're not having to wait like we do with Darren Till. You know, we think he's got it. Now we get to see it. He seems completely relaxed. He seems like he loves being in this environment. He's here. This is an opportunity he's been waiting for. I also don't think if he loses, it hurts him all that much.
No.
Like this is a win-win. Well, I mean, maybe not win-win, but you know what I'm saying. It's not like you don't lose that much losing to Frankie Edgar on short notice. So I love it. You know, maybe we have a new star in our hands, maybe we don't, but you know, we have to see a good fight. Sure.
Yeah, I mean, let me add something here. Like, the one thing I kind of came into the fight week, 3 weeks notice, we know Bryant, he's a big guy for the division, struggles with the weight cut a lot. Today, I think he didn't look healthy. He looked like he had strained on the weight cut again, but he made it. He was I believe he was one of the first on the scales. He looked okay, certainly not as bad as he did in Anaheim when we saw him. I thought that was going to be a big factor. I'm not so sure, and like that is going to play a big factor in tomorrow. Jose, like where do you kind of think he stands in terms of how well he is prepared for this fight? He's coming in on 3 weeks now.
Yeah, and when they announced it was Brian, the first thing I thought when they announced Brian was going to be replacing Max Holloway against Frankie was the weight cut was going to be an issue.
Sure.
I mean, like you said, we were at 214. He walked in, I think there was less than a minute left to weigh in.
I actually think when he weighed in, we were slightly over the time, but because he had entered the room, it was okay.
Yeah, and he was wearing the towel around his waist. Like, he wasn't even wearing shorts, and from everything I heard, he was nervous he was going to have to cut his hair to make weight, and he looked terrible, but that was, I believe, a year layoff, more than a year layoff, because he hurt his knee, so he said he got out of shape and this and that, and he made lifestyle changes. I believe he weighed in at 145 like today, so it was championship weight. He went under that extra pound, but the weight cut, and we were in the media scrum, he said the worst part of this experience is the weight cut, and he kept stressing that. So 3-week camp, I mean, less time to prepare than he should. 3-round Frankie Edgar is terrifying. That's 2 less rounds Frankie has. Like, he's just gonna, like, you saw what happened to Yair. He just got murdered. Brian has been great in 3 rounds, but Frankie was in camp already. I think Brian won't get finished, but I think Frankie pulls it off.
I mean, like I was saying earlier, a bit like the main event here. Like, this is I keep saying to everyone, this is kind of like the first play in the Frankie Edgar playbook. Like, we have a very exciting new upcoming prospect, and every single time he kind of just he shows us there are levels to this game. There's Daniel Cormier,
Charles Oliveira too.
Charles Oliveira, Yair Rodriguez. Maybe Brian Ortega is going to be the hat trick. But Danny, come on, give me some hope. Is there any hope here for Brian? On this
God, I have total hope. 100%. I mean, I think either guy could win. As I said, I'm not disappointed. I think it's okay for prospects to go fight guys like Frankie Edgar and lose, go back to the drawing board. If you're Yair, move to a gym where they actually teach you takedown defense. That being said, like, if Frankie Edgar takes 1 second off, has 1 second where he readjusts, leaves that neck out there, Ortega's on it.
Sure.
Ortega is a legitimate, terrifying submission artist. And yes, he has a very good chance of winning. Frankie's not going to be able to do what he did to Yair on the ground. He can't just take him down and beat him because, you know, Brian has those tools. I think this is a great fight, even if Brian goes in there and gets smoked. This is still a worthy booking and a great fight between two.
It's going to happen eventually anyway.
So I love it. Like, as I'm saying, when I'm saying if he loses, he doesn't lose anything, that's not because I expect him to lose, but just because I'm sick of every time a prospect loses, people saying he was overhyped.
Yeah.
No, he was overhyped.
The hype train's
like,
derailed.
You saw what happened when 20-year-old Max Holloway lost to Conor McGregor.
Sure.
Now look what happened.
Exactly. It's okay to lose these fights, but I absolutely think he can win. But this is something in media when we have to make these predictions. How many times did we bet Conor was going to lose because he was finally fighting an elite opponent and he won?
Fighting Chad Mendes.
Sometimes you get these special
time.
Guys who come along and they do surprise you, and you know it's the prospect who beats Frankie, and I love it. So
sure,
if you don't love it, you don't love the sport.
Exactly right. The co-main event for me is kind of the main event. This is the people's main event. Let's kind of, I guess, move on to another big story here this week. Mackenzie Dern making a UFC debut. A lot of the focus is kind of centered on Mackenzie. She's come up against Ashley Yoder. She's fought more than a few times in the UFC. She's got quite a healthy record.
She's 14, 15 fights.
Exactly right. So, I mean, let's talk about Mackenzie. She was the last in today at the weigh-ins. She looks okay, but we know she struggles with the weight, right? Like, Jose, what do you kind of see when we look at Mackenzie Dern coming up against someone who's been there, been through the kind of the fight week process already, actually kind of seems very in tune with what she needs to do this fight week, whereas Mackenzie's kind of new to all of this.
And yeah, I agree 100%. And it kind of reminds me, I'm not comparing Mackenzie and Hodger Gracie. I can't remember, Hodger maybe Gracie at 162 when he was making his UFC debut against Tim Kennedy. And Hodger Gracie, like if you compare his accolades in the sport of submission and jiu-jitsu, is probably the greatest submission specialist the UFC has ever had. And Tim Kennedy doesn't have an expertise, he's just an MMA fighter. And he not only survived, like Hodger Gracie took his back, and Tim Kennedy not only got out, but won the fight by decision. So I think if this fight is going to go any way, it's going to be either Mackenzie Dern just chokes her out, like she's been doing on the local scene in Invicta and Legacy, or Ashley Yoder's going to be like, I'm an MMA fighter. If I can survive on the ground, I have more tools than you. So it's very intriguing. I think this is a really fun fight. But yeah.
I mean, let me add, like, so Ashley Yoder's actually nickname, her fighting nickname is Spider Monkey, right? So she's known for being a bit of a grappler, a bit of a submission artist in her own right. Like, obviously not on the level of Mackenzie, but when it comes to mixed martial arts, it's very different. Danny, like, where do you kind of see this fight heading? It's different. Like, BJJ is not mixed martial arts.
Yeah, it's not. That being said, if Ashley's strength is, you know, a little bit of jiu-jitsu, going up against someone who they are the best in the world at it is probably. I think that they're feeding Ashley. I do think this is a little bit of a well, I don't know what they call it in wrestling, a can or whatever. Like,
tomato can.
Yeah, tomato
squash
can.
match.
Yeah, this is a.
I don't believe it is. I really.
It may not be, and if I'm proven wrong, that's great. Ashley is I had never interviewed
her before. Aaron
before.
Pico when he got it.
Yeah, she is. She's awesome and seemed like a really nice woman. So I you know, by all means, I'd be happy to see her win. All of this stuff. No, Mackenzie Dern is not going to be dealing with the pressure of this. No. Talk to Henry Cejudo about when you're an athlete who's competed in something other than MMA. About how little pressure MMA fight weeks actually have. Cejudo will talk to you about how he had 8 hours between his gold medal Olympic match and the one that got him into that, and he was like, all I wanted to do was vomit. Like, you have to sit there knowing the world is watching. You've worked, like, Mackenzie Dern has fought in world championships.
She's also called Gabby Garcia as well in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. And, like, seeing her this week, I didn't realize that she was actually kind of that short. So when you think of flipping, like, Mackenzie Dern grappling with Gabby Garcia and actually winning as well, it's...
Well, that's the weird thing about the weight cut with Mackenzie. And we talked to, I mean, look, they made weight. We shouldn't be talking about but she's not going to be able to go to 125. She's too small.
Yeah,
she is.
From everything, she's also very young. Yeah. She's super, super young. She's like she said, like she's still trying to figure out this MMA game. So she's gonna, like, eventually, I don't know if she has a nutritionist now, but she's gonna figure it out. It always happens. Like Ronda, her first fight in the UFC, she didn't have Mike Dolce. She basically just sat in the sauna for hours and didn't eat, and she looked terrible on the scale against Liz Carmouche, and she figured it out. She got it together.
And I mean, you and I have talked about this off camera, but also, it's not just getting a nutritionist, it's getting a nutritionist who understands a woman's body. And the specifics of dealing with that, which is different from a man's body. And it's, in some ways, I think that MMA nutrition with women isn't at the same point yet. So,
you get a lot of the nutritionists are male as well, right? Like, a lot of the forefront, like, people anyway in the industry. I mean, it's going to be an interesting fight. I think, like, if you put a gun to my head right now, I'd say Mackenzie's going to win this just because she has one certain skill set that's a lot further developed than Ashley's. But I'm not so sure it's as clear cut as maybe the odds suggest right now. Actually, when you look at the odds, apart from the main event, like, Ashley's the biggest underdog on the card, which is, yeah, exactly. So it's women's MMA, as my friend Daniel Tom from MMA Junkie says, the sample size is small, so you know, that's one to watch maybe. Danny, I'm going to come to you. Is there anything else on this card that has kind of piqued your interest this week, talking to people during fight week? Is there anything else that's kind of got you, I'm interested to see this. What is it?
I mean, I think this being the last fight on John Dodson's contract
I read that
is absolutely fascinating. Like, I was surprised, and I mean, I look, but then I really dig in during fight week when I kind of arrive in Vegas. There's a lot of fighters on this card, like name fighters who I think people would recognize outside of even the hardcore. It's a fun card top to bottom. I have no complaints about this. Is it like I was saying earlier? It's not a blockbuster, but you stick around the sport for long enough, and you know I think I was saying this with a couple other guys yesterday, but I covered the Demetrius Johnson, John Dodson 2, which that card at the time felt like absolutely nothing. And then you go back and it was all the future stars.
Sure.
Just we were watching them before. And there's a little bit of a feeling like that. I like O'Malley. There's a lot of interesting stuff in this card. I'm not going to go tell anyone to watch it or not, but I don't think this card should be getting beat up on. The only thing it's missing is a main event that feels
competitive almost, right?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. Jose, come on, like, is there anything else you can kind of throw out to people that are sitting there tonight watching this thinking, should I throw, what is it, 60, 65 bucks on this tomorrow?
I mean, for the diehard fans, it's going to be weird when Mike Pyle's not in the UFC anymore. I mean, I know he's never been the sexy name, but like Mike Pyle was Forrest Griffin's head coach when Forrest Griffin submitted Shogun.
And he hasn't got the mullet this week, which is totally throwing me off.
Mike Pyle, I think, is one of, I don't want to say he is the most underrated in terms of skill, but like he's been around longer than people give him credit for. I mean, he's been very streaky. Every time someone brings up Mike Pyle, it's always like, oh, he's great in the gym and doesn't get it done in the fight.
Not every baseball player is a Hall of Famer. And
exactly.
Not every fighter is a champion. But there's value in just sticking around and fighting.
And people, like, from everything I've heard, like, fighters, no one's ever said anything bad about Mike Pyle. No. And he's also fought anyone they put in front of him. Like, he fought Colby Covington, and Colby Covington's, like, second fight in the UFC. He lost, yeah, but, like, Mike Pyle's always been, like, the benchmark. Like, if you can get past Mike Pyle, and UFC, like, fight promotions need that, like, the test. And it's going to be weird when he's not there, but at the same time, it's not like, it's going to be weird thinking about, but I'm not like, you don't know he's gone because you rarely know he's there.
And another one of those, I mean, it's a little different, but it is Andrei Arlovski.
Exactly, that's what I was going to say.
This could be Andrei Arlovski's last fight. I thought that he should have been, for his own good, he should have at least taken a break after his fight, but then he fought
Junior Albini.
Weirdo Junior Albini with the diaper, one of the worst fights of all time. But I mean, I would not on a normal card have written as much as I did about Arlovski, but I wanted to sort of take the time to appreciate him. And I was saying this to these guys last night.
You could win. And
literally, Arlovski has fought a guy born, his second UFC fight, the guy was born in 1965, and Albini was born in 1995. He has fought guys who were born in 4 different decades, and he's been around since 2000, since before the Fertittas. I mean, he's a guy who, he's probably on his way out. We may have to talk about that after if he gets knocked out by Struve, which I think is a very good possibility.
And you still got Katzengano coming back too.
Oh man, we haven't mentioned Katzengano.
There's a lot of there's.
I don't tell people whether to buy, but I don't know.
I got a sneaky feeling. I got a sneaky feeling this is going to be a really good card.
Like Danny said, like, the diehards will know a lot of people on this card, but even like when I say casual, I'm not talking about like I only tune in for Conor. But like, if you know anything about the UFC in the last like 3 years, there's a lot of names on this card.
Yeah, sure. Hector Lombard, another one against
Hector Lombard and Stevie Dollar. That's a former Bellator, former Tough Fighter, finalist. It's
and that's I legitimately, there's no one who is more willing to jump on the UFC when they put together a crap card.
Yeah,
I do it all the time. I'm not a big defender.
UFC London.
This isn't one of those cards. Yeah. I feel good about it. I like it. Like I think we're gonna get good fights. We're getting interesting fighters. I like it. I genuinely am happy that I was here for it, even if there's no excitement street level in Vegas about this.
Who knows? Tomorrow night we could have a new Russian champion. It's crazy. Yeah. It's even crazier to think about. Who knows whether it's going to happen or not. Anyway, let's wrap this up. I've been Jim Edwards. He's been Jose Young. He's been Danny Austin. Enjoy the fights tomorrow night, and no doubt we'll break it down afterwards as well. So we'll see you tomorrow night after the fights.
Do you think I can tell that I'm in jorts?
Why are you so embarrassed now?
I'm just.
He's in jorts.
No, they're great.
Do you want to edit this, Jim?